Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and Jon Chai.
Welcome, my friends, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Coach Brad Wilson. And if you have some audio feedback here, that's because if you're watching on YouTube, you know kind of what's happening. But the podcast listener, I have a giant wolf mask over my face, and my snout really loves bonking into the microphone. So, also lack peripheral vision to see anything out of the corner of my eyes. It's well worth it, though, I think.
We'll try to keep all the action on the center of the screen for you today.
Yeah. I thought you were going to come dressed up to the Halloween party.
I am dressed up.
Oh, what are you?
Bad reg.
Oh. You can't. That's like using the word in the definition. You know, that's what you are all the time. So it's not like
Yeah, it's perfect. I didn't have to do anything different today.
Well, with that said, what's going to be the theme of today's Tactical Tuesday?
So pretty simple theme today. It's going to be overbetting on the river, I guess, but just kind of overbetting in general, and I guess when I use them, when I think it's appropriate to use them, and then hopefully on the flip side, like it'll help listeners kind of be able to interpret what overbets mean when they face them in the future. We got one hand where I overbet the river with value, and then one hand where I overbet the river as a bluff, which are kind of the two situations where you're overbetting the river, or just betting in general, I guess. But yeah, one time really strong value, one time just an airball, which I think kind of both examples sort of illustrate what I'm going for when I overbet the river.
Yeah, so I know that we had a request for some sort of spooky theme for today's episode. Is there any spookiness involved?
Spookiness? No, not. I mean, not in like a direct way that I can think of. But this was like the first comment under that was like facing overbets or overbetting in general.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's kind of a terrible job of making the theme fit, but you know, what can I say? Bad reg, bad hand selection.
Not just bad at poker, bad at SEO.
Not really great at much. So thank you for the suggestion. We'll do a shitty job next time as well. All right, so let's dive into the hand while I'm getting very hot inside of this mask. It's quite uncomfortable. So you open the button with King Jack of diamonds, and the big blind defends. You're playing 1K and L, 100 big blinds deep. Flop is 10-7-5 to diamonds. The big blind checks. So now we're at the first decision point here.
I think there are a lot of different ways you can go. I think on these kind of middling boards, especially when they're two-tone, I think like a really common strategy is just big bet check. I think if that was going to be my strat here, King Jack of diamonds would definitely go in the big bet category, which is one of the super obvious, comfortable bluffs. And I think another strat here is just range bet a third and then start splitting sizes and doing weird stuff on the turn. I think I probably range bet a third. That's what I was doing earlier in the month. Yep. I think this is fine.
Any specific reason for choosing the 1/3 here, or just struck your fancy?
I mean, I think like one nice thing about going a third, just in general, that I've personally experienced is like it just gives you a lot of options on the turn for what you want to do. Like this sort of keeps your range really wide. You're basically saying you're betting every single hand that you open on the button, or almost every single hand. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like a very like flexible flop sizing that just keeps your options open on the turn.
All right, keeping the options open. So villain calls. You turn the second nut flush. There's 105 in the pot. The board is 10, 7, 5, 3 with 3 diamonds. Villain has you covered. You have 950, pot's 105. They check the turn. Decision point number 2.
Yeah, I think this is already like a spot where we could talk about overbetting and just polarizing here. I mean, I think that would be a totally reasonable strat, is just like not have very many bets on this flush completing turn and bet really, really big with your flushes, and then like really, really big with maybe some like semi bluffs like ace of diamonds X hands, or I don't know what other semi natural semi bluffs there are, but like just bet very, very few hands on the turn and go really, really big. I think the more common standard thing to do is just go like a smaller size, like somewhere in between like 2/3 and like 3/4 pot, and sort of just allow yourself to bet a wider range for value. Like I think when you bet that size, you can comfortably bet over pairs, maybe even like the strongest 10x, and obviously all the hands that are better than that.
Would you think about splitting your range here?
Yeah, I think that like is definitely like an acceptable way to go. Like I don't think you're gonna get punished for doing that. Basically, is yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you start out by going 75%. I think my preference would be to overbet here for the reasons that you said, with the exact hand that you have. I think it just makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I would prefer going 150, and I think it sets up for like a better river SPR too.
Yeah, I think that like makes a lot of sense. I think one good thing about this size is that I think regs in the pool are going to perceive this size to be overbluffed.
Yeah,
like just kind of like a lazy like
I don't know about overbluffed, but it could be like more linear, right?
Yeah,
like
more linear.
Over pairs,
sure.
ace 10.
Yeah. And I mean it is supposed to be
10-ish.
more bluff than like 125. But yeah, I don't know.
I think it's actually this size, with what I'm hearing from your strategy, feels like the most underbluffed of your sizes. Like just gonna be pure linear. I imagine with like the ace of diamonds, you're probably just 150ing the turn.
Yeah, but I mean this size, I'll probably bet hands like 8-9, 8-6, like those sorts of hands, and I probably wouldn't. I don't know if I would 150 those hands. I mean, maybe you should actually. Those are pretty normal bluffs. Okay, this one I'll bet like Jack 9.
Sure. I'm not sure that I believe you, but okay, we're here now. Villain calls the 75%. There's 250 in the pot. River's the ace of hearts. Villain checks. Decision point number 3.
So this is a spot where I thought it made sense to overbet for value. I think that once we get to the river, a lot of those hands that I would like, a lot of the hands that are thinner value on the turn that I'm betting for 70 that aren't flushes, basically like over pairs, maybe strong 10x like king 10, queen 10, probably are not betting the river for value all that often. And so I think like my river value range is going to be all the flushes that bet the turn and probably 2-pair plus. So like ace 10 plus, because I probably don't bet the turn with a hand like ace 7 or ace 5. And so like when my value range is that thin, that's probably one of the most common data points I use to bet really, really big.
I think the major problem with betting big on the ace river specifically is that it gives your nut flush draws pairs, and I would imagine that like ace jack with the ace of diamonds is going to be some part of your perceived range on the turn. So I think like the ace specifically just it makes it harder for you to have natural bluffs when you rip the river. Like I just imagine that like you're under bluffing here when you overbet. And I assume you're going to rip just because it's, I guess you could bet like 350-ish.
Yeah, I don't think I ripped the spot. I think I just went like the 350 size. But I think like, I don't know, maybe this is just getting like way too like exploitative and like opening yourself up to like, for bad things, but like I think I could see myself splitting on the river and betting the ace of diamonds, like ace jack with the ace of diamonds, a different size.
Like 30 or something?
Yeah.
Well, I imagine that you could, but I'm just not sure that the perception is like. I mean, I guess the way that you laid it out, like if you do have busted straight draws, that would be the major category you're pulling from with your bluffs, like 6-8, 8-9, Jack-9, Jack-8 type of hands. And then maybe if you have something along the lines of like King-Queen, Queen-Jack, King-Jack with some kind of diamond, could be reasonable that you have a number of bluffs.
I don't know. I sort of disagree that I think when you overbet, you sort of eliminate like a lot of those one pair ace-x hands. And so I have a feeling that the perception could be that I'm overbluffing once I'm like not repping those hands anymore. Because
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you have straight draws. Like that would be the error or lower equity category that villain can bluff catch against, right? And yeah, maybe the ace is. I'm torn on the ace specifically. I guess it does give them some pairs as well. And then if they have the ace of diamonds, then that reduces the number of flushes that you have when you polarize. So, yeah, maybe overbet's just good. Ooh, 2xer.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know. Another question when you're overbetting obviously is like how big to overbet. Like, does this get called more than like just jamming to the point where, 2xing makes any sense, or is it like really dumb because people are inelastic between 2x and jam?
I don't know. I know that like if they have the nut flush though, it's gonna be not great.
I think nut flush check raises a lot facing 1/3 on the flop. But,
like if you bet 150 on the turn. There's like 450 on the river, and villain has like 800, which makes a 2x river jam like more palatable.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like if the plan is to play for all the money, which I assume when you have the second nut flush, the plan is to play for all the money. Like starting out on the turn, setting up the river, seems, like a better plan.
We get heroed.
Nice. Ooh, by a 9 and a 10 with a 10 of diamonds. Yeah, I mean, you are saying you have flush or nothing, so.
Yeah.
I wonder what they do facing turnover bet river jam.
Or just like facing the same size on the turn and jamming the river. I wonder if like this is a hand that's like not indifferent.
Yeah, I mean.
I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but like a human
well, I think there is a little bit of difference between like jamming and then like 2xing. Just the perception could be that like you're holding some back.
Right.
With your bluffs, like you're not risking all of it. Maybe there's like who knows? Like it's really hard to know whether or not villain's like gonna fold any extra to the last 350 on the river or not. Yeah. But intuitively, I think that the 2x gets called more than the jam. That would be my
that's what I mean
intuition.
Yeah, that's what I hope too.
We'll never know, but I guess just need you to jam in the spot like 1,000 times, and then we'll have a definitive answer as to whether or not they're inflexible. So that's gonna do it for hand number 1. Hand number 2 gonna come at you right after the break. Maybe a little spooky. You're putting all the money in when you don't have it. It's always a little bit spookier. So we'll see how well Jon comes through. Stick around.
Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.
All right, welcome back to this spooky Halloween-themed episode where I'm the only one who's wearing a costume and coming up with spooky themes. Really doing the work here today, John. What's you want to dive right into hand number 2?
Yeah, let's just get into it.
Let's not talk about the Halloween failures. So 3x, the button playing 1K and L once again. The big blind 4x's to 120, and I assume you call. And 10-6-5 with 2 diamond flop. So 245 in the pot, 880 behind. You flop the nut flush draw. I assume villain's a reg.
Yeah, villain's a reg. I actually don't like how I played this on the flop. Let's just what would you do here facing check?
Facing check. I think you have like a lot of options.
Yeah, you can kind of do a lot of stuff, but I don't really love the thing that I think. Yeah, now that I think about this hand again, the river almost seems like I got incredibly lucky to get this run out. But anyways, yeah. So like, what are the options?
My preference would probably just be to bet. I think that betting on the flop, lots of good things happen and almost no bad things happen.
Right,
you
getting check raise doesn't matter.
You get check raise, and like villain could actually have like king queen of diamonds,
Right.
king jack of diamonds, queen jack of diamonds, some sort of like 8-9 of diamonds or 7-8 of diamonds.
Yep.
And I think it's like really, really, really good when you bet against those hands, since you're likely just getting it in and going to be a big favorite. If you get check raised with like backdoor spades, then you can bet 3-bet, rip the flop, and fold out backdoor spades. So probably preference would just be to start by betting this flop.
Size?
I'm unsure. I think you could go like small is probably the standard. A third or half. Maybe half.
So like, one of the things that I'm worried about is that like, you bet a third, let's say you get called.
Yeah.
What do you do on the turn, on just like brick turns? Because like on like what I'm thinking is that on brick turns, I'm already like, well, I really don't want to get check raised if I barrel like 2/3 with the hand. So it's like, is it a lot of like bet small on the flop and then check back on?
I think actually I like half, because I think half sets up like a 500 in the pot, and you'll have like 760 or so. So I think that like if you bet half and then on brick turns, I think that you can check behind and still maintain higher equity hands in your range, because you can just have 1 bet left on the river and just rip with like sets, those type of hands.
Yeah.
So like I think my preference would be half, just because it lets us still play for all the money on one street, which means we can check behind the turn and still have some top of range hands. I think if we bet a third, it makes it a lot more difficult to
Suddenly
check
the
back
turn
and
check
then
back
rip the
looks
river.
way more suspicious when you bet it.
Yeah, it looks a lot weaker, right? It looks like you're rarely gonna have sets in
Like,
range.
I gave it a try on the flop and then I just,
Sure,
yeah,
right.
I'm giving up now. Yeah. Okay. So I bet a third. That's why I don't like the size though. I think you're right that like if you do bet bigger here, the turn check back, which I'm planning on doing a lot because I just don't want to be forced to fold the nut flush draw and maybe an overcard. I think that makes way more sense. I bet a third here. Do not get check raised. I get called. Queen of hearts on the turn, overcard. Big blind checks. I stick with the plan and like check back here. I actually think like this check back. This is like where I think I got lucky. Where like I think a lot of my 10x actually just checks back here.
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't even bet the flop. Just like it sort of makes sense for me to have a lot of different kinds of 10x here.
I mean, like conceivably you could bet the flop with 9s, 8s, 7s. You could have like king queen or queen jack in your range as well.
Yeah,
You
queen jack of
bet.
diamonds,
So,
king
like,
queen of diamonds.
Yeah, so you have top pair and a lot of second pair in your range, and probably not a lot of your range even wants to bet on this turn anyway.
Right. What I'm saying though is that like on the deuce of hearts turn, checking back is like, oh, now I'm like, my value range is like probably, well,
I mean, it still has like 10x, right?
Like, yeah, like I wouldn't bet my like ace 10 even on like the deuce four turn. I definitely wouldn't bet a hand like nines. So maybe it's not that. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think like you still maintain some top pairs. The sets that are in your range, which, those are the ones that the best ones. I do think that checking back probably removes a lot of them, but you still have.
I mean, I look
like,
at this SPR
10x,
now, like
10x.
2x or SPR 2, just can jam the river with those hands, and it's not insane.
Yeah, maybe it's not crazy.
Yeah. Actually, now I sort of like the 1/3 on the size better now because I feel like that'll get check raised more often. But anyways.
Well, it will get check raised more often.
Yeah.
And then the river is a 10, so 5, 5, queen, 10, 10, 2 diamonds. You have no flush or pair. Villain checks.
Got a pair of tens.
You do have a pair of tens. So
I think my betting range on the river is going to be just bricked stuff like this. Maybe even a hand like 7, 8. Just like all the straight draws and natural diamond draws. Maybe even like spade hands that bet the flop, take a stab on the flop, and then check back the turn for all the reasons that I said. Although I guess like some of the bad straight draws, like the gut shots and the spade hands that don't improve the backdoor flush draws, don't really mind barreling. But anyways, I think that's probably going to make up the bulk of my bluffing range, and then my value range on the river is only going to be 10x plus. I assume I wouldn't even bet like strong queen x. Maybe like ace queen, king queen. I might be tempted to, but I think that's getting kind of thin because I think the big blind can definitely still have hands like aces, kings, queen x himself.
Oh, they're for sure checking range on the river.
Yeah.
Like,
but I'm saying that like I think it's reasonable for the big blind to have like ace queen and just check call the flop, or like aces and just check call the flop.
Yeah, I think like they are going to bet some, so I think there is like some removal effect there. Like ace queen specifically, I think I would probably just still jam for value. I think that like you could get heroed by, jacks, just some random queen x, or even like ace 5 or something if they're feeling frisky. So I think you can get called by worse if you jam ace queen, but that would be kind of the bottom for me. Yeah. Or maybe like aces if you flatted aces pre. I think that's another like slam dunk jam.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the hands are, the 10x that are there.
Right. And I think like, I don't know, sort of lucky for me is with this run out is that it makes a ton of sense for me to play all of my naked 10x in this way. Maybe the most like suspicious thing is like, does all my 10x bet the flop? But assuming they give me credit for that, I think it's very reasonable to check back the turn and then jam the river, just trying to get heroed by all their one pair hands.
I mean, the reality is you only have like 7 combos of 10x as it is, right? Like you have 2 combos of ace 10, 2 combos of king 10, 1 combo of queen 10, and 2 combos of jack 10.
10-9 suited.
All right, 2 combos of 9-10, so like 9 combos of 10x. I think if villain has like pairs here, I think it would be really, really easy for you to overbluff.
Yeah. I'm for sure overbluffing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's what we just gotta convince them that I'm not.
No, guys, I'm not overbluffing.
Yeah. I have 5s, I have 6s too. I'll totally check those back on the turn.
Well,
queen 10.
You stuck it in. And do we have a spooky ending to the show? No, nothing spooky.
It'd be spooky if I got called.
Called by ace king high. Spooky.
Oh yeah, that would be.
What do they have? Oh my god, they folded ace queen. I don't even know what to say. This is like more trick than treat. Like, I just can't imagine folding ace queen here. Well, they don't block any of your suited 10x, so at least there's that with the ace-king of spades. Or ace-queen of spades.
Yeah, this is like a bigger fold than folding aces, right?
No, because at
maybe
least
not.
with
I don't
aces you beat ace queen.
Yeah.
Like, but well, good job. Good work. Way to take it to him, sir. I think if maybe this is another downside of like betting a third on the flop too. Like you get called by like ace king and ace queen.
Yeah,
Most
it's
always.
good if you're like planning on barreling the turn, but if you're planning on checking back the turn, it's probably not that good.
Yeah. You probably don't want to get called by ace king high and ace queen high. Well, all right. Here lies another episode of Tactical Tuesday. And until next year, we'll have Halloween episode. We're a day late for Halloween, but you know what? What can you do? You can't make Halloween fall on a specific day. We have 5 years before April 1st.
We'll just mark all the holidays
falls
up on a Tuesday next year so that we can be ready.
We know in advance. Yeah. You guys wait. Like we're warning you now 4 years in advance that we'll have some April Fool's shenanigans cooked up by the time the next one rolls around on a Tuesday. We're betting that you forget. I hope we don't forget.
No, we won't. See you in 4 years.
See you in 4 years.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter. Join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter @CPG Podcast.